Welcome to Talkin Fight, another episode featuring our panelists, Mike,
Up,
Derek, and Christian. Well,
Guys,
guys, we've got a lot on the plate tonight to discuss. We've got a big fight last weekend featuring Conor Benn. We've got some history again, courtesy of Christian. And Mike's going to take off from that point and tell us some more about these wound fighters. So first off, though, Derek, you saw a great fight last weekend. What'd you see?
yeah, so it was Conor Benn, and he was defending his WBA Continental European welterweight title, and he was fighting Sebastian Formella, and what a great fight that was. It was really interesting to see. So as you all know, probably that Conor Benn is Nigel Benn's son, who is the one of the famous middleweights from the UK back in the day, and he's the apple's not falling far from the tree. I think this guy's a rising star. He in his fight with Sebastian Formella, who is so let's go back to the records first and what they've got. So Conor Benn's 17-0, so he's got a clean, perfect record. But this time he stepped it up. Fighting someone like Sebastian Formella, who just finished fighting. He lost, unfortunately, against Sean Porter. That's a serious contender. 24-2 with 10 KOs or TKOs, and so he's got a pretty decent record. And stepped it up. He completely and utterly outclassed him, and that's Conor Benn, of course, and did a fantastic job. Just the punches were faster, crisper, cleaner. Everything about the fight, it was utter domination. But the one thing I got to say is that Sebastian Formella's chin was absolutely incredible. He took bombs. He took bombs throughout the entire evening, and he made it through all the rounds. And it was a unanimous decision at the end, of course, and he came out. But I think this really legitimizes Conor Benn in the welterweight division, and I'd like to see him start to fight some of the bigger names. And if you've seen some of his earlier fights as well, I mean, he's a banger. He likes to get in and brawl. And I think the difference is with this fight that I noticed from his previous fights is that he was really finding his range and his distance, and he wasn't getting sloppy, and he wasn't making the mistakes, but he was still throwing the hard shots. He was still, doing the combinations. His footwork was great. And I think he's tightened up his game a lot in comparison to some of his previous. But if you ever get a chance to, there was a fight a few years back, I think in 2017, against Cedric Payode, and what a fight that was. I mean, they really went at it, and it shows that he also has heart. He took a shot, I forget which round it was in, but he went down, came back up, and won the match. And really great. And what was really interesting as well is it's so different watching the fights now without the crowds in the background, because you can really hear those punches hit. I don't know if you guys have been noticing that, but you can hear those punches land.
I love hearing the sound of the ladder against somebody's face.
That smack, right?
That smack. You know they're connecting when that's happening.
Yeah.
It's bizarre watching any sporting event without fans in the stands. I mean, you lose a lot of that atmosphere. You lose the energy of the crowd. Kind of, it almost looks like a sparring match from time to time.
But the best part is
when they connect. They connect.
And what I also love is being able to hear the coaches yelling at them.
Absolutely.
Hearing them put together those combinations that they've worked so hard in the gym, to make, and just hearing the way that the coaches are coaching from the sidelines, and not being able to hear that all the time. It's kind of interesting to see this side of it as well.
And the post-fight, congratulations amongst the fighters. You can hear everything. You can hear what they're saying, which is in the past, it's very, very hard to hear, right? So it's nice.
So a little glimpse onto the inside of what these fighters get to enjoy through these long matches.
Yeah. Anyways, I encourage it. Go check it out. Really, really good fight. Great fight. This guy's, watch out for him. That's my prediction. But I want to see him fight some bigger names.
Awesome. I'll definitely have to look at that. I'll check that out.
Nice.
Right on. Speaking of big fighters, Christian, what you got for us?
Oh, well, kind of on the tail of last week's conversation where we ended off talking a little bit about Katie Taylor there. That kind of got the wheels spinning in my head, and I started doing a bit of research, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about Elizabeth Wilkinson today, and I want to mention three of her fights. Elizabeth Wilkinson, she was born in England, in London. Not a whole lot is known about her life. Other than that, she was born in London because she was self-proclaimed as of the famous city of London. And she appeared to come from like working class English background, which was pretty typical of boxers at the time. Now, she was active between 1722 and about 1728. So we're going way, way back today and talking about very early on female boxer. So it's unclear, though, because not a lot was known about her, whether Wilkinson was actually her legal name or her birth name. So there's some speculation whether or not she was either married to or related to a Robert Wilkinson, who was himself a prize fighter at the time, as well as a thief and a murderer who was executed about 3 months after her first bout. So it has been speculated that maybe she took on Wilkinson as a stage name just to kind of have that notoriety with the famous criminal. But that being said, the first of her three fights that I want to talk about tonight, and I'll put you out of your misery right now. She won all three of these bouts. It's not really the result we're interested in here, but they were significant for a different reason each. So in 1722, Wilkinson challenged Hannah Hayfield of Newgate Market to what's many believe to be the first female prize fight in English history, or in London history at least. So these were all advertised in the papers, and the challenge would go out in the papers, and then it would be returned in the papers prior to these fights. So we actually do have some quotes from the time. So in 1722, Wilkinson challenges Hayfield, and the advertisement read, "I, Elizabeth Wilkinson of Clerkenwell, having had some words with Hannah Hayfield and requiring satisfaction, do invite her to meet me on the stage and box me for 3 guineas." Now, using our super accurate Talkin fight maths, that equates to about $800 in today's money.
Oh,
okay. Wow. So Hayfield responded in the paper in kind, "I, Hannah Hayfield of Newgate Market, hearing the resoluteness of Elizabeth Wilkinson, will not fail, God willing, to give her more blows than words, desiring home blows, and from her no favor." Okay. So they went on to specify the rules in this fight. Now remember, we're talking bare knuckle. This is the 1700s here. Was that each woman would hold a half crown, which was a coin at the time, in each hand, and the one who dropped a coin would lose the fight. Now this was A, to determine the winner of this fight, and B, it was a rule put in place to guard against eye gouging and scratching, which was fairly common at the time in boxing in the 18th century. So if you held onto your money, you had to have closed fists. So that made a lot of sense. So that fight, again, significant because it's believed to be the first documented female prize fight in London. Okay. The next one I want to talk about was going a few years forward in her career. In October of 1726, a fight was announced between Wilkinson and an Irish woman by the name of Mary Welsh to take place at James Stokes Amphitheater. Now, about halfway through Wilkinson's career, her name did change from Wilkinson to Stokes when she married James Stokes. He was also a fighter himself, a promoter, owned the amphitheater, and later in their career, they would actually usually get challenged as a couple, husband and wife against husband and wife, not in the ring at the same time, but you get the idea. Yeah. So that's the James Stokes Amphitheater, and this is why this one's important. A note at the bottom of the advert for the fight read that they will fight in cloth jackets, short petticoats coming just below the knee, Holland drawers, white stockings, and pumps. So the reason it's important to talk at all about what they'll be wearing when they're fighting is because prize fighting was a fairly new phenomenon for females at the time, didn't mean that there weren't female fights happening around the boxing world at the time. It was more common. It would be more like a sideshow attraction, and they would frequently hire prostitutes to fight topless before the fights, kind of as a sideshow trying to amp up the crowd kind of thing. So the fact that they're saying that these women were going to be fighting fully clothed sets both Wilkinson and her opponents, for that matter, apart as serious athletes as opposed to a sideshow attraction. Let's say to anyone in the papers read about this fight, come on down if you want to see some boxing today, because that's all these girls are here to do. So it's a good documented case of them kind of taking a step in the right direction of getting proper recognition as athletes. Now, on a slightly lighter note, I want to talk about another one a little later on in her career, in about 1728, coming down to the end of her professional boxing career here. She responded to the challenge of one Ann Field. Now, you'll have to hang with me for a moment here on her profession here. Ann Field, an ass driver from Stoke, Newington.
An ass driver?
A donkey herder.
Okay,
but the wording is important because it does come up in the challenge. So that's why I wanted to throw it in there.
Just making sure that I heard that correctly.
No, you definitely heard that right. So the historians often cite this challenge because of Anne's humorous job, as mentioned, and because of Elizabeth's assuredness in her response. So I'll give you the challenge and response here. This version I wanted to talk about this fight is just really to show that trash talk was alive and well in the 1720s. So the challenge went out. I, Ann Field of Stoke, Newington, ass driver, well known for my abilities in boxing in my own defense wherever it happened, in my way having been affronted by Mrs. Stokes, Wilkinson, styled the European championess, do fairly invite her to a trial of her best skill in boxing for £10. Fair rise, fall in question, but not to give her such proof of my judgment that shall oblige her to acknowledge me the championess of the stage to the entire satisfaction of all of my friends. Very wordy, very 1700s. So the response from Elizabeth. I, Elizabeth Stokes of the city of London, having not fought in this way since I fought the famous boxing woman of Billingsgate 29 minutes and gained complete victory, but as the famous Stow-ass woman dares to fight me for £10, I do assure her that I will not fail in meeting her for this sum, and doubt that the blows which I shall present her with will be have no doubt, that the blows I shall present her with are much more difficult to digest than any which she has given her asses. When the famous ass woman of Newington. So, and once again, using our super accurate talk and fight math here at the time. So by the end of her career, £10 would have been a little more than $2,000 today. So, early in her career, she's fighting for about $800. So, she's moving in the right direction. Still not big money, but, she was getting there. Elizabeth Wilkinson Stokes, is kind of one of the most venerated female pugilists in early British boxing history. But, she wasn't by any stretch the first to step into the ring, nor was she, by any stretch of the imagination, we know, the last to defy gender norms by stepping into the boxing ring.
Wow. Thanks, Richard.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I had some fun researching this one.
Well, that's good. That's good. Those are some crazy women from back in the day.
Just because you were mentioning last week Katie Turner, and I didn't realize that the Olympics hadn't even recognized female boxing until 2012.
Right. And speaking of that, that's one of the women that I want to talk about tonight. Clarissa Shields actually is the first time, male or female, back-to-back gold medal champion for the U.S. or for the Olympics, for the U.S. team. She right now is, I believe, 10-0. She fights middleweight. One of the fights that you need to watch is her versus Christina Hammer to unify the world titles. There's a studio film that's in the makes of her life right now. There's also a documentary that's out about her rise to stardom and her pursuit of the gold medal. She's really an awesome boxer to watch. When you watch this fight, the Christina Hammer Clarissa Shields match, it's she reminds me of some old fighters from back in the day, like James Toney, that real defensive punching kind of thing. People are calling her today the Michael Jordan of women's boxing. So she's gonna be one to watch. Another one I want to talk about is Savannah Marshall, another awesome middleweight out of the UK. Her trainer is Peter Fury, who we all know, who is Tyson. The reason why Tyson Fury is holding the belt that he's holding. She just fought and took the belt away from Rankin, who was actually holding the WBO championship, I believe. And these two women are going to end up crossing paths very, very soon. It's going to be a big fight. I say you guys go back, watch these two women, watch the buildups. They're both undefeated. You want to see knockouts in women's boxing. These are the two women you want to watch. Savannah Marshall, I believe, is 9-0 with 7 knockouts. And Clarissa Shields, I believe, has 5 knockouts under her belt as well. But these two women are just dangerous women. You know, the female boxing is just, it's leaps and bounds of where it was 10 years ago. It's unbelievable the dedication these women are putting in, and the training and the ability that they have. You know, some of these women can probably stand in the ring with some of these men, and you know, they're champs, and these champions you need to watch. This Marshall, she's the silent assassin. That's what they're calling her. They're saying that she's calling out Clarissa and saying that the only reason why Clarissa's holding the belt she has is because she hasn't got there yet. So there's going to be some big fights coming up in women's boxing. Another awesome bout that I came about was Estrada and Adkins. Fastest box out in women's history, in women's boxing, the fastest. 7 seconds, 7 punches in the first round. It was over. There's a clip you need to go and find out and watch. You'll love it. I'm telling you, the 5th shot, that it was just a vicious left hook to the jaw, and she was sleeping before she hit the ground. And you know, the ringside doctors, you can hear them because there's no crowd. You can hear them, "Hello, wake up! It's the doctor." It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to watch. But that fight, honestly, was probably I'd say it's gonna go down as probably the most poorly mismatched fight of the year. You had a champion, 18-0, stepping into the ring, who's only been boxing a couple of years. Sure, she was 5-0. She accepted the fight, but she was fully outclassed. It's sad to watch, but it's funny at the same time. A great knockout. Guys, you need to check it out. And you also need to watch this girl, Savannah Marshall, and Clarissa Shields. These women are like up and comers right now, man. They're holding these belts. They're going to hold them a long time. They're totally dominant in their weight classes, and eventually they're going to cross paths. It's going to happen, and it's going to be a battle of the century.
Quick question, Mike. Is there one country that's dominating the female sports in boxing?
You know, right now, I don't know if they'd say dominating, but you know, a lot of the fighters coming out of the UK are just, it's a different style of boxing, right? You got the European style of boxing versus an American style of boxing. The European style is a lot different than the American style, which, you know, we can talk about next week when we talk about different styles and different fighters of different styles. We can do that. But yeah, you know, the European style is, I guess, it's starting to show its dominance. It's, you know, it's a lot more technical. And
I read an interesting article. Neil the Deal was on the other night, and he was talking about a German boxer in the heavyweight division. And so I just did some reading on boxing in Germany. It's interesting what these reporters were saying. Basically, because of the influx of, shall we say, new Germans from various Eastern countries, they're bringing a whole new style of boxing to the table. And they're becoming quite dominant, like a lot of former Yugoslavian, like the Serbians coming in, the Ukrainians coming in. A lot of the Eastern Europeans are coming into Germany and totally taking over the sport of boxing in a good way. Like they're fun to watch, and they're big boys. And I wondered whether women were also dominant in Germany. I didn't know.
They must, you know, I believe they must be, because, you know, if the men are going to be dominant, the women are going to be dominant too. It's just, it's that German mentality, man, that militant training style, you know, strong, tough like concrete, you know, big brick heads, you know, they train their asses off, and they destroy stuff, man. And yeah, it's probably, I'd love to see this new style of boxing. I'll definitely want to check that out.
Yeah. And Champ Bolloré was telling me about some of the Canadian women that are up and coming. So it seems like it's going to be, it's too bad the Olympics are being whether postponed or whatever, but
they're claiming postponed at this point.
Postponed.
They're still claiming Tokyo's still claiming that they will be holding an Olympic Games in 2021. They're hoping to.
Oh wow, I'd like to see that.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that.
So I think
Definitely.
Certainly a lot of women would be excited to be participating as fighters in the Olympics this year.
Oh, definitely.
Whenever they have. I mean, you've got to train for years. The Olympics is not a, hey, we're just happen to be doing this. These fighters are disappointed right now because they have been training for years and years just to get their shot to qualify for an Olympic team.
Right.
And to have the entire game snatched away from everybody. It's heartbreaking for these athletes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So fingers crossed they are able to pull one off eventually.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I was reading about is the undercard on the Tyson-Jones fight coming up. And before the show got started, Mike and I were talking about it. Yeah, we've got a Canadian there, but there's some pretty decent matches in his undercard before the Tyson-Jones pillow fight. So
I think the co-main event is actually I believe it's Jake Paul, the famous YouTuber, is on the undercard as well.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I can't wait to see this.
What a joke!
He showed up to the weigh-in in a giant, and I do mean giant, blonde wig.
Come on!
And he did have a face mask on his Mantra, but his looked more like Bane's almost.
Oh God!
Yeah, it was. It was exactly what you expect from someone like Jake Paul.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to them. This man is smart. This pay-per-view is going to be good. This is why he's on it, because he's got millions of followers. That's millions of people that are going to buy it just to watch him fight. Even if they don't even know who Tyson or Jones Jr. is. They're going to watch it just because of this kid. But yeah, let's be real. Who doesn't know who Mike Tyson is? Probably most craziest boxing entertainer of all time. His antics are just mind-blowing. Always in the news, always causing problems.
Just before I came on with you guys tonight, I just finished watching the weigh-ins, and the weigh-ins for the undercard for Tyson-Jones, and then just finished watching an interview with Roy Jones, a half-hour interview with them about the upcoming fight as well. So I'm getting pretty excited. I don't know about you guys.
You ready? You're ready for Pillow Fest 2020?
I am at this point in time. I think I am. I'm morbidly curious to see how this is going to go.
Yeah, I've heard rumors. I've heard rumors that Holyfield is calling out Tyson and telling him to sign the papers and get the fight all ready to go after this one. So I think Holyfield wants another piece of Tyson. I think
Tyson's going to wait and see what happens to this one.
Yeah. We'll see how long it takes a 53-year-old man to stop heal after all this.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys,
it's going to be interesting because
parking in the background. I'm going to have to strangle her here for a second.
Metaphorically.
Yes, metaphorically, not.
Good.
More like she's blind and didn't know I was sitting right here.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting fight because I was again in the interview I just watched. Jones has basically said, I am a counterpuncher, and that's my strength. And I'm going to wait when Tyson starts swinging at me. That's when he's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're talking a counterpuncher versus the man who invented the peekaboo style. That peekaboo style was meant to stop counterpunching.
Yeah. And the thing is like, so Roy Jones Jr. always relied on his speed. He's probably had some of the fastest hands ever in boxing. And when you get older, the speed goes, right? Like your speed and your reflexes start to go. And so I'm interested to see, does he still have it? Because, it's power versus speed, this fight. But actually don't count Roy Jones Jr. out too, because they called him Captain Hook, right? For a reason.
That's true.
He had a great hook.
Oh yeah, and I'm hoping to see it. But I'm hoping. Well, let's see.
See how it goes.
They asked Tyson directly after the weigh-in. They asked Tyson directly after the weigh-in. How long are you going to wait to really unleash on Jones? unfortunately, he had some microphone problems right off the hop when they asked him. But as like his mic cut, and he basically was saying, as soon as this bell rings, I'm going to start pitching punches, and his exact words were, "I'm going to start pitching punches, and the rest of it's up to Roy." He doesn't have to worry about me. If I run, I'm running right at him.
Yeah. It's exactly what Roy Jones Jr. wants, though. He knows
where to find me.
Yeah.
So
right on his inside.
Yeah.
Pillow punching his gut.
Yeah.
This is gonna be funny, man. You know what? I'm wondering how hard it's gonna be for these guys to actually wear headgear as well, because that's got to be difficult, I think.
Jones did touch on that slightly, saying that when he first started boxing, even as an amateur, headgear was still optional, and it's not something that he ever went for. Because I don't need that. I can beat this guy, no problem. No, I don't need that. So he's not. From day one, he's never been a headgear guy, and he said as much.
Well, and you know what? That could throw a man's game off terribly. So I guess we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to touch base on this next week. Don't forget, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we're gonna end up devoting a little bit of next week to this.
I think so.
Tyson fight. I don't think we're gonna have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, we're definitely gonna have to. Definitely.
Yeah.
Having said that, we are running out of time.
I know it seems like that always starts to happen.
Any last comments going around the table? Christian, anything come to mind?
You know what? Again, I'm just excited for tomorrow, and not just the title match there, but the whole undercard should be interesting. I'm looking forward to a nice Saturday evening on the couch. We're all in lockdown these days, so good way to spend a Saturday night. A couple of drinks and watch some fights. Looking forward to it.
Definitely, me too. Guys, remember Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall. Watch some of their highlights. You guys will be impressed.
Watch Conor Benn.
Definitely. I'm gonna watch that as soon as we're done.
Oh, it's great.
I can't wait to watch that slugfest.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Go back and watch the weigh-ins and the interviews. They both both Tyson and Jones put out pre-fight interviews.
All right, awesome.
Thanks very much for
right.
That's great, fantastic stuff.
All right.
And if you watching us out there, please subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Thanks.
Good night, guys.
Good night.